So with her release on August 4th, 2017, I thought it'd be time to finally talk about Eva Marie, who you have seen in my WWE 2K17 My Career videos. Because, okay, I'll get to that in a moment. Now, when she made her debut after only being on the Performance Center for like, what, 3 months? Like, let's see, she signed a contract with WWE in 2013, and then was sent to the Performance Center, and then in July, just a few months later, she makes her main roster debut, establishing herself as a heel who wants to make a name for herself by slapping Jerry Lawler in the process. Yeah. Mostly, she was known as the Total Diva star. Like, she was basically what everyone had feared. She was the embodiment of the Divas system, where basically the focus wasn't on wrestling, it was more on sex appeal. And here's my honest thought. If this was the Attitude Era and Ruthless Aggression era, then she probably could have gotten more of a big following, considering back then WWE was more sexualizing people. And they did not succumb to the PG era or the politically correct or the SJWs. So they couldn't really get away. So Eva Marie's talents that she did have couldn't be used because of all these heavy restrictions in the nowadays. But if this was back then and she joined WWE, if she was born much earlier and joined WWE, then that would be a completely different story. Her career would have actually made a huge impact, especially how much heat she got. But here's the thing, WWE kept trying to push her as a face, but when they realized that was failing miserably in every single way possible, and how after she tried to, after the whole AJ Lee angle, when she delivered her own version of a pipe bomb promo, and WWE for some reason was not giving her a face turn and instead gave Eva Marie and the Bella Twins a face turn and canceled the sequel to AJ Lee's pipe bomb promo because the Bella Twins bitched about it. Because, you know, progress is clearly against the wishes. And they say their beloved relationship, spouses and husbands, future to be, are not influencing their career. Now, Eva Marie made a 6-man women tag team match, and it sucked. Like, it was reportedly that WWE wanted to punish Eva Marie for her behavior backstage, and I'm thinking, like, yeah, what did you expect? And also, why do we, the audience, have to suffer? Couldn't you just, and I'm not kidding here, couldn't you do the Natalya angle you did with this displaying of farting? Like, I'm like, anything that other than having her wrestle, because she wasn't a wrestler even beforehand. Like, whereas Trish Stratus, she had a background in some form of sports and exercising, Eva Marie was an actress and a model. Well, mostly a model, but she wasn't trained in wrestling, she wasn't trained in the sport, or she didn't have some form of athleticism in terms of sporting events. She was a model, and everyone hated that about her because she was the embodiment of what the Divas division was becoming back when it was still called the Divas division, and the Divas title certainly didn't help matters. So yeah, she was then churned back into a heel after a 3-month absence in 2014. She defeated Alicia Fox in her first singles match on WWE television. The match, however, was cut from broadcast. Oops. And then she finally made her WrestleMania debut, competing in the Vicky Guerrero Invitational matchup. And yeah, that failed miserably. And then afterwards, Eva Marie, after numerous times of being on Total Divas, I don't watch the show, so I don't know what happened on there because I'm not interested in Total Divas. Like, I'm interested in wrestling and maybe some entertainment value, but mostly in the wrestling shows. So yeah, I'm not interested in the whole stupidity. The whole pointlessness of the Total Diva show, or the Total Bella show for that matter. I still don't get why they put that there. Anyways, she had reached an inactivities moment where she had a rupture in her implants. Yeah. So she was out for a couple of months in 2015. back in 2014, and then she came back in March 9th, accompanying Summer Rae in her match against AJ Lee. And she went on hiatus shortly after in order to train with former WWE Tag Team Champion and eventually Cruiserweight competitor Brian Kendrick. Then she stated that she was going to move to the NXT division, with the audience booing her, because if you thought the main roster audience was rough on Eva Marie, by God, they would be much worse. Since NXT fans tend to be very ECW-ish with their opinions. And then I saw a match during the golden age of NXT. She had a match with Bayley, and that was honestly Bayley's worst match ever. Like, I know she tried her damnedest to make Eva Marie look like $1,000,000, but I went on Bleacher Report back when they still had their own comment system and expressed my dissatisfaction of the fact that this has got to be a joke, because, like, I'm not gonna say, ooh, she sucks, she doesn't have talent. I was like, I was in shock that WWE allowed this to go on television, or NXT WWE Network, but I thought she should have stayed in the Performance Center and got more training out in order to at least be acceptable. But yeah, and then there was a moment where something bad was going on. The fans' hatred for her grew immensely, especially after that match. And then it was reported that she broke down crying backstage. And I'm like, yeah, this is why I sometimes don't like being a wrestling fan, because, well, other than the politics, but also because how fans could sometimes be a little bloodthirsty. Yeah, let's go with that. But I was hoping that Eva Marie could rise above this, and here's the thing. Her best match, eventually, in an ironic sense, would be with Bayley again in November 16th of NXT, where she challenged Bayley, who was then NXT Women's Champion. And WWE, and there was a report going around that Eva Marie was going to win the title, which I thought was stupid. I even made a video about it. This was reported, and WWE, well, more like Triple H and the NXT creative team, said, you know what? Let's do this. We can take that hatred of Eva Marie, the company favoring Eva Marie, and turn it into a conspiracy storyline. So, yeah, they did this whole segment building up to this match where she would have a referee of the main rosterville, Charles Robertson, and her ally Nia Jax to face Bayley for the NXT Women's Championship, and it was part of a big conspiracy angle because WWE, by extension Triple H and NXT, said, let's exploit this hatred and go forward with it, and saying that the company might have an agenda towards them. Also, you could say the Authority had a role in it, but they weren't really mentioned much. So then Eva Marie started to go ahead and have a storyline with Nia Jax, as Eva Marie was being her manager now, and that's what I thought she was going to peak at, because I thought she'd be awesome as a manager. Like, the amount of heat she gets, like, she doesn't even need to wrestle. Like, if she can wrestle, that'd be one thing, but she thrives as a manager. Granted, I'm pretty sure someone inspiring to be a wrestler would be dissuaded by that, but yeah, let's go ahead and just go all out with this. And afterwards, she would later return to the main roster after her final match in NXT was against Asuka, who was then Women's Champion, in a non-title match, and would be her last match in NXT. Then Eva Marie made her return, help as a face. Yeah, they're still going about it. With her fellow Total Divas co-stars against Lana, Naomi, Tamina, Emma, and Summer Rae, which resulted in a 10-diva tag team match, because then it would turn into a women's match, a women's division, and Eva Marie would get the victory. Eva Marie's team would get the victory, with Brie Bella submitting to getting the victory on Naomi, and then afterwards she took a hiatus like, she was getting booed, and Eva Marie was displaying heelish attitudes in the ring, so I get the feeling that they just wanted to do this. I was expecting them to, like, go ahead and build Eva Marie back up as a heel, then she disappeared. And then she was drafted months later as part of the brand extension for the SmackDown roster. Eva Marie then made her first appearance on the brand on July 26th, when she debated with a new long introductory entrance while confronting the brand female talent, reestablishing herself as a heel. And I was like, okay, yeah, we got something here. And then throughout August, Eva Marie began faking multiple unfortunate events in order to avoid in-ring competition. So WWE knew she couldn't do well in the ring, so they said, let's piss the fans off even more. And they let her tease she's going to make her in-ring debut, but it never happens. And for some reason, even though fans have expressed their hatred towards her, apparently all that can be solved if she has a wardrobe malfunction. Yeah, they did a wardrobe malfunction angle where her top fell off, and while thank God no one saw what underneath it, but she covered herself. It was apparently the most viewed moment on YouTube. And I'm like, okay, so let's see if I get this. So this is why I kept saying, like, if this was the Attitude and Ruthless Aggression era, she would have had a bigger cult following. So, unfortunately, on August 18th, Eva Marie would be suspended for 30 days for violating the company's wellness policy, and Marie was replaced by the returning Nikki Bella at SummerSlam as part of the 6-woman tag team match. And here's the thing. The problem here is that when they did this long introductory sequence where it looked like Eva Marie was going to show up and she didn't, I thought, oh, okay, do it. I dare you. Say you were suspended by the company for being too gorgeous. That actually would have been awesome if they did that, to acknowledge her suspension, but at the same time make a joke of it. That would have been awesome. But instead, they also decided to say, no, she left because she went on vacation to get away from the WWE fans for psychological torture or something like that. And I thought, okay, that wasn't as good as the suspension they could have done, but it was still all right, acknowledging the fans' hatred of her. And this would be the last time Eva Marie would ever show up, because she was suspended for 30 days, and the 30 days were up, but then she never came back. And it wasn't confirmed why she never came back, but in 2017 it was noted that she began pursuing interests outside of the WWE and began removing WWE references from her social media accounts, and she dyed her hair black. Or was it always black? Yeah, I think it was always black. She just changed the color again. And in July, it was announced that Marie would not be returning on the 7th season of Total Divas, which I'm still wondering why it's still on the air since it's no longer called the Divas Division. And like I said, on August 4th, Marie parted ways with the company and was officially released. Now, this is disappointing for me because I actually kind of like Eva Marie, like, not the looks department. She has the looks. She's the embodiment of what the fans hate of the Divas Division. But I felt like she could have been a great manager. But here's the question. Who would be her client? Who would be her perfect client? Like, it has to be someone who can get that kind of heat with Eva Marie. It had to be somebody who was hated, vilified, despised, and unfortunately John Cena will never turn heel, so that can't be it. So Ryan Delbert of Bleacher Report kept saying the same thing that I was thinking. Roman Reigns. He is the perfect guy to be Eva Marie's client. Like, imagine it. Roman Reigns is the most hated wrestler on WWE, not because if he's a wrestler. Well, that's one factor fans like to say, even though Roman Reigns has delivered match after match after match with high quality, even getting a good match out of the Big Show in the Last Man Standing match. But no, we gotta ignore logic on that. But WWE shoves Roman Reigns down their throats, which I understand. It could be very, very fucking annoying. But Eva Marie, imagine if WWE wanted to go all out with Roman Reigns turning heel, and they have Eva Marie basically be his manager. imagine the heat they could get together. Like, that would have been perfect. That is the biggest money on the table they could have earned. And they didn't go forward with it. That is the most disappointing thing. Eva Marie could have went to the Raw. Like, they referenced her on Raw when Sami Zayn wanted to leave Raw because Mick Foley wasn't giving him the opportunity to fight Braun Strowman. And Sami Zayn took offense to that when Mick Foley tricked him into thinking that he traded him for Eva Marie. Oh boy, I wonder if that was to piss her off, but that didn't work, I think. And also, it was reported that originally they wanted to give her the SmackDown Women's Championship. In fact, some people actually were hoping for that just to imagine the reaction they could get. And honestly, I would have loved it. She actually would have been a great heel champion. Not in terms of wrestling, but in terms of drawing heat. Because people would pay, like, okay, she's like, not wrestling-wise, but more like a drawing level of heat Chris Jericho from WCW. Imagine it. You take possibly one of the four horsewomen, have her feud with them, where she's the SmackDown Women's Champion, and they go ahead and do this angle where she's mocking them, insulting them, and she's basically doing what Chris Jericho did to Goldberg, and this leads to fans wanting to see that wrestler kill her in the ring. And they could have made that a pay-per-view level quality match, and just to see the four horsewomen, one of them beat the holy hell out of Eva Marie just to take the title from her after multiple months of holding it and somehow getting away with it. Other than that, the Roman Reigns Eva Marie pairing client manager thing would have been the perfect role for her. That would have given her a level of heat that with Reigns could never be seen. Probably it would take us back in time to the 80s when wrestling was more darker in terms of audience reaction. Like, it could incite a riot with fans. Like, you have the guy shut down people's throats, the woman who embodies everything that's wrong with the everything that was wrong with the Divas division, and she wasn't a wrestler, she was a model, something that fans hate with a passion. And that's why I actually make her my manager in WWE 2K17, because she'd be perfect as a manager. And plus, it'd be funny if we could actually make her a manager for Roman Reigns, because that'd be hilariously awesome. But like I said, so much money could have been on the table for her. She had the opportunity to do it, and WWE could have made her a manager and have her manage all the more despised wrestlers in the WWE who get a level of heat. But the perfect guy for her would have been Roman Reigns, because they would have exhibited everything fans hate of the company. And personally, of Vince McMahon. But like I said, huge wasted opportunity there. I'm disappointed that they never got a chance to go all out with her being a manager. And she apparently starred in a movie which was hated. Though, of course, Nicolas Cage was in it, so I think that might have been a sign. But yeah, Eva Marie, best of luck to you. I'm not those psychopathic fans who yearn for your head to be put on a pike. Seriously, that really needs to be addressed someday. But I will say that you could have been a great heel to get that kind of heat. Like, I know it probably would have affected her emotionally, but I'm pretty sure she was starting to become more comfortable with the hate she was getting. But like I said, WWE, you missed out big time on a Roman Reigns Eva Marie pairing for a manager-client relationship to get that kind of heat and publicity. That would have been perfect. So those were my thoughts on Eva Marie. This was Neo Reality Entertainment. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and donate to tune for more.